And now we've arrived at the last chapter of the Barber text before we jump into the California book. And this chapter focuses on American domestic and foreign policy. And this is one of those really critical and important chapters that really confronts the issue of public policy, both at the international level and also in the national level. And within this, we will be looking at the concepts of social policy, economic policy, and foreign policy, and also how they relate to our roles as citizens in this country. This is one of those things that's really critical, one of those chapters that's really critical because it really looks at and asks the questions of the outcomes that are associated with our policies. So, for example, if we implement a policy regarding foreign policy looking at another country, whose interests are we trying to serve, and how do we measure its relative success or failure? And what happens if we take the same policy and try and implement it over and over again and we keep getting the same result? Well, many would say that's the definition of insanity. I agree with that. But sometimes the difference between the policy and politics is what's most important. Sometimes the policy people, and there's thousands of them that work very diligently on trying to resolve issues to help the government and those in power make good decisions. But here's the question I always come up with that I think is most important for all of you. What happens when the policymaker's answer is no, but the politicians need it to be yes? Yeah, that's when it gets a little bit dicey, right? And frequently we find that they make it yes. And of course, this could go the opposite way too. What happens when the policymakers decide the answer is supposed to be yes, based on all their expertise and information, and the politicians decide it needs to be no? Exactly. That's where the problem is. And so we'll look at that, and we'll look at, again, those controversies surrounding those things. I love controversy. It's the best thing about getting you to think about these things and hopefully developing some critical thinking skills along the ways to help you start checking out and challenging these things. That's why we look at all the videos that we have, because they're important in terms of connecting the dots between what you read in the chapters and the reality of life. And this is not about trying to persuade you one way or another. It's about trying to get you to open up your mind to take in new information and be able to assess those things that you find to be valuable or important to you. So let's jump into this last chapter.